Hey everybody, once again it's Mrs. Clemens and this is Psychology Flipped. And as always, remember, keep calm and study psychology. All right, so we have been talking about personality and what makes us who we are. And so in our first video we were talking about trait theory. In our second video we were talking about behavioral and cognitive theories as well as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And right now we're going to do our favorite. We're going to talk about Freud. And so here's the deal. First off, I know this is the fourth theory we're talking about, and I know it says number 3, so it's up to you. If you want to write number 4, you can write number 4. If you want to write number 3, you can write number 3. If you want to write number 18, go for it. So Freud is very, very interesting in psychology. We talked a little bit about him in our introduction, and we just said, hey, he's an important guy we're going to be talking about. He's sort of the father of modern psychology. We're going to be talking a whole lot more about him here, and there's definitely some funky stuff. So the first thing you need to know is whenever we talk about Sigmund Freud, by the way, is his first name, Sigmund. Whenever we talk about Mr. Freud, we link him with the name of his theory, and the name of his theory, actually theories, is psychodynamic. So we need to keep those in our mind. Every time we hear Sigmund Freud, psychodynamic. And what he says is that our personalities come from our unconscious, and that in our unconscious we have conflicts and desires that we're not even aware of in our waking lives. And so when we go in the future and we're talking about sleep and dreams, we're definitely going to be coming back to Freud. Now, here's the deal with Freud. Do we necessarily believe everything that he says still today in psychology? No. Are there some people that do? Yes. It's just, well, we're going to talk about some of the criticisms. Why do we still talk about him if everyone doesn't totally go along with his ideas? Because his ideas form the basis for modern psychology, and so we give him his props. Now, let's talk about what the unconscious is first. It's the belief that our mind contains material that we're unaware of. So one of the big examples that we give, and again, so much of psychology is, has made it into pop culture, and so this is one of those things that you've probably heard somebody say, a Freudian slip. So let's say that, all right, this is one that has actually happened, that a student says to me, hey, Mom, can I go to the bathroom? And then they go, oh my God, and they're all embarrassed. That's a Freudian slip. That instead of calling me Mrs. Clemens, they called me Mom. Now, this, according to Freud, is saying that our unconscious mind is at work. That really, the kid that says that sees me as a caretaking figure, a mother-type figure, somebody who's looking out for them, someone you need to ask permission from. And so in their mind, it wasn't just random that they said mom. It's that I, in some way, remind them of their mom or the function of their mom. It would be as if instead of me calling my husband Ben, that I called him some other name, like, I don't know, Al. And Freud would say that I'm secretly, that either I have a crush on Al or there's something about Al that reminds me of my husband, something along those lines. All right, so he says, Freud, that we have 3 subsystems of personality. So the first one is the id. For some reason, people say ID, but it's a lowercase d. It's id. And that's our most primitive and unconscious. It's way below our recognition. We don't really realize this at all. It's very infantile, very, basic. Our ego is our rational, logical self, and this starts when we get a little bit older, when we're ages 2 to 3. Now our next one is our superego, which is our conscience or our guilt. So what we like to say with this is that that's like an iceberg, that as we're going, you know, on the boat of life, yeah, we see some stuff up above the water. That's our conscious selves. And in this graphic here, you've got the pre-conscious that's just below the water, kind of lapping the sides of the iceberg. And then beneath, we've got the stuff that's totally in our unconscious. So our id is completely in our unconscious. Our ego is the one that has the highest percentage that's actually above the water. Now, our superego, some of it's above the water, but the vast majority of it is below the water. So as we give our examples here, that'll kind of make a little bit more sense. So the id is the I want it now. I have to have it. The ego is I need planning to get it. The superego, no, you can't have it. It's not right. So let's say that, let's see. Well, you know what? I know he's older, but, you know, I kind of grew up on this guy. So let's imagine Brad Pitt walks into my classroom. Hello, Brad Pitt. How are you? I hope he's listening. So the id, now consciously, I might be like, oh, like he's so handsome. The id is saying that I want to hook up with this guy. Or maybe even more than hook up with this guy. That that very primitive, basic need of sex. That, oh, and I'm whispering so my mom doesn't hear this. So anyway, I'm afraid of my mom. So the id is saying, I want to get with that guy. All right? The ego, now, part of this is conscious. So I'm going to flirt with him. I'm going to try to impress him. Maybe I'll tell him about a book about Lincoln that I've read. I know that he'll be impressed. So some of that is unconscious, but you know how I'm flipping my hair. Oh my God, I'm actually flipping my hair. Maybe he'll come. I think Tom the custodian might come. So I'm flipping my hair. Maybe I don't realize I'm doing that, but I am trying to impress him with my wonderful knowledge. Then my superego. So let's say that Brad Pitt is enticed. He loves my Lincoln knowledge. He finds my hair flip to be very attractive, and he comes over and he looks like he's about to give me a kiss. Mwah! Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. The thing that stops me from making out with him, other than you guys all being in the classroom, is just somewhere deep inside, I know it's wrong. I know I'm married. I know that it's not right. And that's just not going to happen. So that's my superego that stops me from making out with him. Would I actually stop? Yes, I would. I would not make out with you. I will not make out with you, Brad Pitt. It won't happen. Okay, it really won't happen. So id, I need to have him. Ego, how do I get him? Superego, I shouldn't do it. All right, now this is a whole nother thing, and I think maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more in class. Now, in our class, we don't talk about this that much. Now, if you end up taking a developmental psych class or an actual college Psych 101 class, you're going to talk about this. This is another it goes a lot with developmental psych, but it also goes with personality. And so my one story, the only one that I will tell with this, is the idea is that as you go through these stages, it affects your personality through those stages, but also you can get fixated in those stages if something goes wrong, and it can affect you later in life. So my one story I'll tell you, and you're not writing this down, but is the anal stage. Why am I telling you? Because I embarrass myself, not only in person, but also online. That this is the stage when you're getting potty trained, and when you learn that you can control when you go to the bathroom. And so think about the muscles that you use to control, to hold it, to not go. And so if you get fixated in this stage, this is when we say to someone when they're an adult that they're anal or anal retentive. That they need to control everything, that everything has a place and everything in its place, that they're not very flexible. And so now we're not talking about their anus anymore. Now we're talking about their personality. Again, ask me about it in class, and I'll probably gross you out more with all these. Just so you know, phallic one definitely grosses me out. There's a whole thing with Oedipus in there. All right, so one thing, though, that we do definitely agree with, for the most part today with Freud, is his defense mechanisms. Now, we talked about some of these when we were doing our stress unit. So let's go through these really quickly because I have been rambling. So these are the things that protect our ego from anxiety. So the first one is repression. We're going to push something out of our consciousness. I'm going to pretend that I never did this recording and I never mentioned Brad Pitt or anuses. Oh my God, I hope I do repress it. And that's a thing that I do so that I don't have to worry about it. And you hear about repression in terms of people that have been abused as children and then they forget it. Displacement is when you have to redirect your impulse. So my example here is you want to hit your father, but you hit your brother instead. This is another family example that I have where my mom used to hate her boss, but she couldn't yell at her boss, so she came home and yelled at my brother and I instead. That's displacement. She can't yell at her boss, but she still is angry. She yells at my brother and I. Projection is where you blame somebody else, and this is one I saw a lot in summer school, where it's not my fault I failed, it's the teacher's. Rationalism is when you try to justify your actions. Well, I cheated on the test because everybody cheats. Or, yeah, it's not my fault I copied the homework. Like, you know, you wouldn't figure it out anyway. You're trying to kind of come up with a reason for your behavior. And then regression is basically acting immature. But we're not talking about, like, laughing at fart jokes, which everyone loves fart jokes, duh. But like really going and acting greatly immature. So it would be like a 5-year-old and their mom is expecting a new kid and all of a sudden they're wetting the bed again. Or we always talk about men, going through a midlife crisis, getting a tattoo or a convertible or having an affair or something. Now, criticisms of Freud, it's very hard. How do you test that? How do you test that you have an id? How do you test that you repress something? It doesn't necessarily predict future behavior. His findings were not from a large sample. And that's it. I'm so worried about running out of time. All right, guys, join me for our last installment of Personality next time.